Alright everyone, welcome back.
そのようだな。おかげで命拾いしたが。
Archer says calmly, Well, we were certainly saved, but...
失敗した。ランさんに気を取られて周りの気配に気づかなかった。で、アーチャー、あんた何してんの？
見てわからないか。手が空いたから休んでいる。
んなわけないでしょ。ランさんはどうしたのよ。
さっきの人影を追ったよ。目撃者だからな。おそらく消しに行ったのだろう。
For an instant, my thoughts stopped.
追ってアーチャー、私もすぐに追いつくから。
Archer goes after Lancer immediately.
くそ、なんて間抜け。
I curse my carelessness. It's the rule of Magi to eliminate any witnesses. Which is why, if one didn't want to do that, one just had to allow no witnesses. I've done that until now, so why do I have to make a mistake today of all days? A night where even the moonlight is obscured. A student is lying on the cold hallway floor and Archer standing still. He is staring silently at the student. A smell hits my nose. The blood on the floor makes clear that it's the smell of death.
追ってアーチャー、ランサーはマスターのところに戻るはず。せめて相手の顔ぐらい把握しないと割が合わない。
Archer goes after Lancer. I'm left alone with the student lying on the floor. I can't look straight at him, but I must. This is my fault. This is my fault. That's a lot of faults. Ever since I was a child, ever since I became the successor of Tosaka, I've been preparing for something like this. There's no good or evil for Magi. I've always told myself that this road has only my blood and the blood of others, so...
ランサーの槍で一突か。心臓やられてちゃ助からない。
I don't know how long it's been since Lancer killed him. Was he lucky or unlucky to be pierced through the heart? I would say he was pretty unlucky. Unless you want to count it as luck that he probably didn't feel it. This, because he probably died a quick death. I don't know. I guess Lancer's attack isn't a simple external wound as the flow of blood from the rupture isn't too severe. It's not too severe, but it's all over when the brain doesn't get any more blood. No, basically, if his heart were pierced, he should have died instantly.
その割にはまだ死んでないってのはすごいな。
Yes, he's still breathing faintly as if to give his last scream. But that will only last a few more seconds. He can't heal his own wounds, and I don't have enough power to save him either.
顔を見ないと。それぐらいはしなくちゃ。
I try to touch the head, facing the ground, and realize my fingertips won't move. They were trembling. I wonder why. I'm used to such things. I've had to make these kinds of choices many times before. I've lost many things due to my mistakes and my selfishness. That's why I'm ready for a day like this. So why? Why am I so angry at myself?
ごめんね。見とるぐらいはしてあげる。
I control my trembling fingers and my failing knees with my will and look at the face of the student. A huge smacking sound. It really feels like I've been hit on the head with a hammer.
やめてよね。なんだってあんたが。
I grit my teeth. Not to suppress my trembling. I'm really pissed off. Why is it him? Why did it have to be him? I'm not mad at Lancer for killing a witness quickly and perfectly, just as a servant should do. I'm just angry at him for staying late at this place on this day. Oh man, I like this soundtrack too. Sakura's face flashes in my mind. She will definitely cry. And I recall one red-tinted day after school a long time ago. A distant sunset. Someone always running alone. And a boy and girl staring at that from far away. And before me, the corpse of someone who happened to get involved. There is a way. I might fail and lose my last resort in the process, but there is still a way. No, I'll lose my last resort whether I succeed or fail, so the result for me won't change. It's a mistake. The fact of his death is already determined. It's my fault for not noticing the things around me. It's his fault for unluckily staying late. So I don't need to go that far. Yes, because this is what my father, who gave me nothing else, left just for me. A powerful chunk of magical energy. A reliable last resort to win through this battle. A precious, precious thing just for me. I shake the feeling off and kneel in front of the one who will become a corpse in another second. The pendant in my hand becomes lighter. My father's memento is drained almost to emptiness and falls onto what used to be a dying body. Yes, it can't be helped. I didn't have the power or skills to revive someone with a damaged heart, damaged blood vessels, and on the verge of brain death on top of that. That's why I had to make up for my lack of skill with this powerful object.
まだ息があるのが運の尽きだった。完全に死んでいたら、どんなに魔力の蓄えがあっても蘇生なんてできなかったし。
But since he was still alive, I just did what I could and ended up saving his life.
失敗してたら目も当てられなかったけど、成功したからいっか。ええ、正直に言えば充実感あるしね。こういう経験も悪くはなかったわ。
I'm just bluffing.
行こう。済んだことは済んだこと。こいつが目を覚ます前に帰らないと。
Yeah, there's no need for me to stay here any longer. Archer should be following Lancer, so I should go home by myself. On my way back, I remember. I left the pendant at school. Just a pendant now that the magical energy has been drained out of it.
もういいか。
I have no more use for that pendant. Sure, it might have a bit of a magical energy left in it, but surely less than the 10 jewels I have. What my father intended to leave for me was enough magical energy to win the Holy Grail War. So now, without magical energy, that thing is meaningless. I entered the house without saying anything and sit on the sofa. Archer isn't back yet. I sigh and listen to the clock for a few minutes.
いい加減頭を切り替えなくちゃ。あれだけの戦いを経験しておいて、何ほうけてるんだ私。
I jump up and brew some tea. There are so many things to think about. Most importantly, the servants. I've just witnessed a battle between servants I had previously only understood intellectually.
ランサーか。宝具を使われそうになった時は焦ったけど、実際使ってたら正体は分かったのよね。
The easiest way to be an enemy servant is to learn their identity. Ignoring for the moment the idiot who doesn't even know his own identity, the biggest weak point of a servant is their true name. Discovering the servant's true name, in other words, figuring out their identity, should let you take a guess at what kind of noble phantasm they might have. It goes without saying, but since servants are heroic spirits, they have a legend associated with them. If you figure out their legend, you should be able to figure out most of their abilities. Servants are called by their class names because they want to hide their true names. Because the more famous a hero is, the more people know about their weapons and their weaknesses. A heroic spirit that becomes a servant never gives out their true identity. The only ones that know the servants' identities are the masters. There's even a tacit understanding that the masters hide their servants' identities while trying to discover the identities of the others. This is the Fifth Holy Grail War. The qualities of the servants are determined by the ranks of the summoned heroic spirits. It goes without saying that the more famous heroes and the heroes with better weapons are stronger. But it's difficult to summon such heroic spirits. To summon a heroic spirit, one must have a connection with them, such as a weapon they use during their lives. Even the Magic Association has a few of such things. So generally, one will summon a heroic spirit that suits them like I did. A servant's strength is determined by the rank of the heroic spirit. But it's not that simple, as even the most powerful heroic spirits may have a hard time depending on the class they are assigned to. That is because of the special abilities assigned to each class, the possibility of the weak defeating the strong. The 7 classes each have a different additional ability, and one even has a chance of defeating an opponent of higher rank depending on the ability's affinity. To take an example, an infamous hero has defeated a great hero 4 times in the past. As far as I know, the most powerful servant is Saber. In all the previous 4 wars, Saber has made it to the final fight. It is said that the 3 classes Saber, Lancer, and Archer have strong magical resistance. To put it simply, magic is pretty much useless against them. It's because they are fighters who fought through the age of myths when magics were used widely. Magics that Magi use now would probably dissipate just by touching them. Anyways, that's why these 3 classes are considered the basics and the best. Another that's worthy of mention is the Servant Berserker. The heroic spirit summoned into the class loses their sanity. Just as the name implies, they become a mad warrior, puppet of their master. The benefit from this is strengthening of their power, far exceeding powers they had when alive. However, the more powerful a servant becomes, the greater the burden it imposes on the master. In the past, masters who summoned Berserker couldn't control their rampaging servants and destroyed themselves by running out of magical energy. No exceptions. The winners and losers of the Holy Grail War are largely determined by the abilities of the servants. Well, I expect there are ways to win it by the master's efforts, but it's basically a fight between the servants. That is why a master should be very careful when summoning a servant. I silently considered the plans we should make from now on. The clock fixed already strikes 11 while I do so, and Archer comes home.
おかえりなさい。成果はどう？
すまない。失敗した。よほど用心深いマスターだったのだろう。少なくともこちら側の町にはランサーのマスターはいなかった。
As I expected, Lancer was alone and it seems his master isn't the type to show up for battles personally.
そう。まあ、簡単にはいかないわよね。
Yes, there's no way everything will go as I might hope, so it can't be helped. Let's consider what happened tonight as a tuition fee for the lessons learned.
覇気がないな、マスター。いつもの威勢はどうした？まさか、先の一戦でおじけづいたというのはなしだぞ。君が命じるのなら、今すぐにでもランサーとの再戦に赴いてもいい。
Archer protests silently that we should do so. I see. I guess I look depressed.
そんなわけないでしょ。私が打って出ないのはね、単に無駄手間をしたくないだけなんだから。
無駄手間をしたくない？
だってまだマスターの数が揃ってないでしょ。今夜のはやむなしだったけど、開戦の合図があるまで戦わないわ。それが聖杯戦争のルールだって父さんは言ってたし。
そうか。君の父親もマスターだったのか。
Archer nods, understanding. Then, Archer makes a troubled face and starts to ponder something.
何よ。何か言いたいことでもあるの？あんた。
ああ、一つ聞き忘れていた。リン。君は幼い頃からマスターになるべく育てられ、それに従ってきたのだろう。つまり、初めからマスターになることを予想していたわけだ。
当たり前じゃない。それはいきなりマスターに任命される魔術師もいるそうだけど、私は別よ。遠坂の人間にとって聖杯戦争は何代も前からの悲願なんだから。
そうだろう。なら目的がとうにあるはずだ。私はそれを聞き忘れていた。主の望みを知らなければ私も剣を預けられない。リン、それで君の願いは何だ？
願い？そんなの別にないけど。
何？
Oh, Archer's making a funny face.
そんなはずはあるまい。 聖杯とは願いを叶える万能の杯だ。マスターになるということは聖杯を手に入れるということだというのに、叶える願いがないとはどういうことだ。
Archer's asking with a serious expression. Oh, I see. The master's wish after obtaining the Holy Grail isn't irrelevant to the servant. But it's strange. Father said that servants have wishes as well, but that it's only their wish. I don't think Archer should be concerned because I don't have any wishes.
よし、明確な望みがないのであれば漠然とした願いはどうだ。例えば世界を手にするといった風な。
なんで？世界なんてとっくに私のものじゃない。
Archer's like, what?
あのね、アーチャー。世界ってのはつまり自分を中心とした価値観でしょ。そんなものは生まれた時から私のものよ。そんな世界を支配しろって言うんなら、私はとっくに世界を支配している。
That's one way to look at it. Archer looks at me with a troubled expression. I'm amazed. The guy really is hard-headed.
バカな。聖杯とは望みを叶える力、現実の世界を手にできる力だぞ。それを求めるというのに何も望まないというのか、君は。
だって世界征服もめんどくさいし、そんな無駄なことを願っても仕方がないでしょ。あなた割と想像力が貧困ね。
理解に苦しむな。それでは何のために戦う？
そこに戦いがあるからよ、ハーチャ。ついでにもらえるものはもらっておく。聖杯がなんだかは知らないけど、いずれ欲しいものができたら使えばいいだけでしょ。人間生きていれば欲しいものなんて限りないんだし。
つまり君は。
ええ、ただ勝つために戦うの、アーチャ。
Archer's shoulders slump. Maybe he's disappointed in my opinions, but it seems he's finally relaxed.
参った。確かに君は私のマスターにふさわしい。
Ugh. I find it hard to deal with that kind of comment, so I wish he'd stop saying such things.
サーバントにマスターを選ぶ権利はないけど、一応聞いとく。なんで私があなたのマスターにふさわしいのよ。
言うまでもない。君は間違いなく最強のマスターだ。使える相手としてこれ以上のものはない。
そう、ありがとう。あなたに言われるなら世辞ってわけじゃなさそうだし。
I look away because I'm embarrassed. I find it hard to deal with Archer because he speaks frankly like this even though he's so cynical. But well, I'm honestly happy that he trusts me. I trust Archer and he trusts me. I don't think this sense of solidarity is a bad thing.
さて、ならば一息入れようか。7人目のマスターが現れるにせよ、それは今すぐというわけでも。ちょっと待て、リン。君、あの飾りはどうした？
飾りってペンダントのこと？はあ、あれなら忘れてきちゃった。もう何の力もないものだし、別に必要ないでしょ。
それはそうだが、君がそう言うならいいが。
ええ、父さんの形見だけど、別に思い出はあれだけってわけじゃない。
よくはない。そこまで強くあることはないだろう、リン。
So saying, Archer takes out the pendant I left at school.
拾いに行ってくれたんだ、あーちゃん。
もう忘れるな。それはリンにしか似合わない。
As if he's embarrassed, Archer looks away as he hands me the pendant.
そう。じゃあ、ありがとう。
I accept it. To be honest, I don't know if I should be embarrassed or cool about it. The pendant is as it was. As expected, there's no magical energy left in it. Empty of magical energy, it's just an expensive but ordinary jewel, and it doesn't hold any power. But as Archer would put it, even if there's no power left in this pendant, it still has meaning as something my father specifically left for me. Then, maybe I can just laugh off the fact that I helped that guy by sacrificing my trump card.
って待った。
Something clicks in my head. I wasn't thinking straight back then because of my regret, but thinking about it calmly, I missed something. He saw us, so it'd be dangerous unless we adjust his memory. Basically, Lancer prioritized eliminating the witness over his battle with us. Lancer's thinking probably matches his master's. So, if such a master finds out the guy they killed didn't die, what would he do?
そんなやつ生かしておかない。
I get up from my sofa. It's been 3 hours since then. I might not make it, but after all I did, I have to make it on time. I run through the night. Fortunately, I know where his house is. No, I didn't look it up, but it just happens that an acquaintance of mine goes there a lot, though I've never been there myself.
まったく余計な苦労を背負おうとしているぞ君は。
Archer has no interest in cooperating. He was against saving the guy when he was dying, and he's against me going to help him right now. You gotta respect Rin for actually going out of her way to do this, considering she was trained from the very beginning to eliminate any witnesses, and the fact that she knows this person, even possibly a acquaintance, like they're not friends, but just the fact that she's willing to preserve life regardless is just, it shows that her character is really cool, you know? It's midnight. Under the cloudy night sky, we reach the Japanese-styled house. There's no sight of anyone in this house on the edge of the residential district. There aren't many houses around it, and there's no one to come and help if something happens here. Well, how convenient. My breath is white. A wind starts to pick up. It must be quite strong as the clouds start to drift fast. The supposedly warm wind of Fuyuki sends chills down my spine, making me tremble. Even if Fuyuki City is considered warm, it's still cold on the hill. The air around here is frozen. I strain my ears in the cold atmosphere. In the frozen feeling, I feel a small sense of an enemy.
いる。さっきのサーバント。
I bite my lip. His presence is perceptible on the other side of this wall. Lancer's in the house already and about to kill the same guy again, who has just come home without a clue as to what happened.
飛び越えて倒すしかない。その後のことはその時に考える。
Just as I'm about to command Archer to go in. A bright white light like a fallen sun comes from within the house. The presence is eclipsed by another presence. The wave of power of the servant Lancer is consumed by an even larger wave. The instantaneous explosion of ether gives the spiritual being a body summoned to overpower Lancer.
嘘。
I can only mutter, but it's true. To prove it, Lancer jumps over the wall and leaps away as if fleeing from this place.
ねえ、アーチャー。これももしもの話？
さあな。だがこれで7人。ついに数が揃ったぞリン。
Archer answers calmly. I've lost my normal judgment. That's why I didn't even consider the obvious event that would follow. The wind blows strongly. Clouds cover the sky like an umbrella. The unlit suburbs are enclosed by darkness. And the servant jumps over the wall, coming down like a demonic bird. Archer has reacted already, but I couldn't react. That was my mistake. The battle ended with a small opening, not lasting even a second. It might have been only a second for me, but for that servant, it was an opening that couldn't be ignored. A sword rushes for me.
アーチャー。
Archer pushes me aside and the servant slashes him. It happens in an instant. Archer, who handled Lancer's fury of attacks beautifully, has been taken down with one blow.
アーチャー、消えて。
But I make it in time this time. Just as the enemy servant is about to cut off Archer's head with her blade, I forcibly remove him. A pain in my right hand. It must have been an excessive command, so a command spell has disappeared from my hand. Now there's only one remaining. But this is for the best. Rather than having Archer die, I would prefer to lose one or two command spells. Giving no consideration to Archer's disappearance, the servant attacks me.
なめるな!
I take from my pocket a topaz with a wind spell stored in it. Then I launch all magical energy it contains at her without processing it. This thing, which can blow away a house without a trace, is a bundle of wind spells I've stocked up over time. It's one of the 10 jewels I've been putting my magical energy into for 17 years without rest. I'm using all the magical energy stored in it, so even if I can't defeat her, it should at least slow her down a bit. No, not even that. It did nothing. The swirl of wind that instantly tears apart anything caught within it disappears like a magic trick the instant it touches the servant. Such strong magic resistance. Mere magical energy from a magus cannot hurt this servant. So this is it. She can't be hurt by magic, and I've lost the protection of Archer, so I can't stop this servant. I barely managed to avoid one blow, but that's all. I look up at the night sky. In it is the figure of a cold-hearted death who is looking down at me as I lay miserably on the ground. Oh, Saber! The wind blows. In between the dark clouds and the spiral sky, the moon shines. The falling moonlight and the beautiful face. This is the serpent that drove off Lancer, defeated my Archer in one strike, and annulled my magic with no trouble.
今の魔術は見事だった、メイガス。
The girl's voice is like a bell. Yes, this voice is like a nightmare right now. It's only natural. The more beautiful my enemy is, the more of a nightmare it is, as I cannot believe the difference in our strength.
だが最後だ、アーチャーのマスターよ。
The point of the sword shines brilliantly. On the verge of death, I understand. With just one look, without proof. This is the card I wanted. The one said to be the strongest of all servants, the hero of the sword. I look up at the moon, accepting my death. There's no time for me to flee or plead for my life. I will die here, and Tosaka Rin's Holy Grail War will end on the third day. There is only disgrace and regret, and I will probably vanish bearing a grudge against my enemy. But still, I don't feel anything. Something must really be wrong with me. Even though I'm going to be killed in an instant, I adore her again. That's right. If you ask for regrets, that's it. But I guess it can't be helped. Because she's the most powerful servant. Because her figure is just so heartless, so infinitely valiant, and so beautiful. Alright, so that ends the prologue at long last, guys. So, if anything, we're finally going to continue on with the main story. Alright, I guess we start. Because we don't load anything here. I am the bone of my sword. Steel is my body, and fire is my blood. I have created over 1,000 blades, unknown to death, nor known to life. Have withstood pain to create many weapons, yet those hands will never hold anything. So as I pray, unlimited blade works. When I came to, I was in a burning field. I guess there was a big fire. The familiar town had turned to ashes, and it looked like the remains of a battlefield from a movie. But that didn't last long either. The fire had died down by the time the sun rose. The tall wall of flame had shortened, and most of the buildings had fallen. It felt strange being the only thing in that place that still had its original form. I was the only one still alive around here. I must have been really lucky, or my house was built in a very lucky spot. I don't know which it was, but the point is, I was the only one left alive. I felt that since I survived, I should live on. I started walking aimlessly because I thought it would be dangerous just to stay there. I wasn't really concerned about getting burned up like the people lying around me. Probably because, over and above not wanting to be like them, I had a stronger feeling in my mind. But still, I had no hope. It was already a wonder I was still alive, so I couldn't expect to be saved. I won't survive. Whatever happens, I won't be able to escape from this red world. It was such an absolute hell that even a small child could understand it. And I collapsed. Was it because there was no air? Was it because no function was left in my body? Anyway, I collapsed and stared up at the clouded sky. Everything around me was burned up and I could see many shriveled people. The dark clouds loomed overhead, telling me it would rain soon. That's good. The fire will be put out once it rains. In the end, I sighed deeply and looked up at the sky. I say to myself that it hurts. I say so on behalf of all the people who couldn't even say so. That was 10 years ago. After that, I was miraculously saved. My body survived. But I think all the other things about me burned up and were reduced to ashes. If you take away a child's parents, home, and all such things, there's nothing left for him. That's why there was only my body. I think it's a simple story. In other words, in order to let my body live, my heart died. I'm dreaming. I squint my eyes at the white light. So bright, I think. It was just light entering my eyes when I woke up, but I'm not used to it. I probably didn't even understand what that bright light meant. When my eyes focus, I'm surprised. I'm lying on an unfamiliar bed in an unfamiliar room. I'm surprised, but the room is so white and clean that I feel safe.
どこだろう?
I look around. The room is as big, and there are many beds. A person is in each bed, and everyone seems to be hurt. But nothing feels ill in this room. Everyone who's hurt is someone who was saved. I relax and let my eyes wander. Outside the window, the bright blue sky was unbelievably beautiful. After a few days, I finally understood. I could clearly remember what had happened in the past few days. Even so, I was no different from a newborn baby. Not just a metaphor, it was close to the truth. Anyway, it was a terrible fire. I had been saved from it, was in the hospital with my body wrapped in bandages, and my parents were gone. I didn't get the situation, but I vaguely understood that I was alone. I think I understood quickly. Well, there was nothing but children in similar situations around me, so all I could do was observe the fact. And after that, that man came right when I was beginning to worry that what would happen to me next. He came on the day my bandages were taken off and I was able to eat without help. Wrinkled coat and uncombed hair. The man, a bit younger than the doctor, felt more like a big brother than a father.
こんにちは。君がシロー君だね。
A smile that seems to melt into the white sunlight. I think it was a suspicious voice, but a very kind voice.
率直に聞くけど、孤児院に預けられるのと、初めて会ったおじさんに引き取られるの、君はどっちがいいかな。
That man was saying he could adopt me. When I asked him if he was a relative of mine, he said he was just a stranger. He looked like an unreliable guy with no future. But it made no difference as I knew nothing about either one, him or the orphanage. So I decided to go with him.
そうか。よかった。なら早く身支度を済ませよう。新しい家に一日でも早く慣れなくっちゃいけないからね。
The guy quickly started packing my stuff. His packing wasn't very good, even in the eyes of a child. Then, after making a big mess...
おっと、大切なことを言い忘れた。うちに来る前に一つだけ教えなくちゃいけないことがある。
Is that okay? He turns to me
Hmm.
lightheartedly and says, and he beat me to it.
はじめに言っておくとね、僕は魔法使いなんだ。
He says it in a serious, exaggerated tone. It happened in an instant. Come to think of it now, I was really a child back then. I automatically believed those words.
わあ、じいさんすごいな。
I guess I said so with bright eyes. Since that time, I became his child. Actually, I don't remember what I said back then, but my father would always talk about that day. He would remember and retell the story again and again. So for my father, Emiya Kiritsugu, that might have been the happiest day of his life. So, I guess it was strange for my father to tell me that he was a sorcerer, but I was strange as well for admiring that. And thus, I became an adopted son, and my last name became Emiya. Emiya Shiro. Ah, the main character. When I said my name, I was really proud of having the same last name as Kiritsugu. I'm dreaming. A story from my childhood. It was when I finally convinced my father to make me his student, so it must have been about 8 years ago. When I was old enough to stay at home by myself, Kiritsugu started to leave the house on a regular basis. He would say in his normal tone that he would travel the world, and actually act on these words. That's how I was after that. It was normal for him to leave the house empty for a month, and he sometimes wouldn't come home for half a year. The Emiya house is a big Japanese-style house, and Kiritsugu and I were the only ones living there. I was perplexed in this house at times, as it was too big for a child. But still, I liked my life here. Emiya Kiritsugu would come home from his journeys and tell me lots of stories like a child. And the child who shared his last name would be at home waiting for those stories. I was always alone in the house, but that loneliness would all fade with the stories he brought back. The father who was always chasing his dreams like a kid. His attitude was astounding, but he always seemed dazzling to me. That might be why I wanted to be like him someday. Well, on top of that, looking at my ever-dreaming father, I felt I should become reliable myself. Nope, we're backtracking a bit. January. Fate Stay Night, Day 1. I hear a sound. I hear a heavy, old, rusty sound as the door opens. Light enters the dark shed. My mind waking up.
先輩、起きてますか？
Ah, Sakura. Feels the cold air and the approaching footsteps.
おはよう、さくら。
おはようございます先輩。
Sakura smiles and nods as if accustomed to this situation.
先輩、朝ですよ。まだ時間はありますけど、ここで眠っていたら藤村先生に怒られます。
そうだな。よく起こしに来てくれた。いつもすまない。
I kind of like the lead up to everything, from the prologue from Rin's perspective, and to finally go on to Shiro himself at long last.
そんなことありません。先輩、いつも朝は早いですから。こんな風に起こしに来れるなんてたまにしかありません。
Sakura seems more upbeat than usual today, as if she's happy about something.
そうかな。結構さくらには起こされてるぞ、俺。けど、藤姉には叩き起こされるから、さくらの方が助かる。これに懲りずに次は頑張る。
I answer her with a sleepy head. I don't know what I'm saying with my mind not fully awake.
はい、わかりました。でも、頑張ってもらわない方が嬉しいです、私。
Sakura is giggling. I guess my head was still dozing and I said something weird.
ちょっと待ってくれ。すぐ起きるから。
The cold outdoor air helps in situations like this. The chill works well to beat the sleepiness out of my head. That's the opposite for me. When it's cold, I'm a lot sleepier. In front of me is Mato Sakura, my junior at school. This place is a shed behind my house, and the time is 6 o'clock.
先輩。
ああ、目が覚めた。ごめんな、さくら。またやっちまった。朝の支度手伝わないといけないのに。
そんなのいいんです。先輩、夕べも遅かったんでしょ。なら朝はゆっくりしてください。朝食の支度は私がしておきますから。
Sakura says so in a happy tone. It's unusual. Sakura really seems to be in a good mood this morning.
バカ、そういうわけにいくか。今起きるから一緒にキッチンに行こう。よし、準備完了。それじゃあ行こう、さくら。
いえ、先輩。
なんだよ、他に何かあるのか。
いえ、そういうことではないんですけど、先輩、家に戻る前に着替えた方がいいと思います。
That said, I looked down at myself. I fell asleep while I was working, so I'm still wearing my overalls. Being my work clothes, they're pretty dirty. I can't imagine what Fujine would say to me if I went into the house like this.
まだ目が覚めてないみたいだ。なんか普段に増して抜けてるな、俺。
ええ、そうかもしれませんね。ですから朝食の支度は私に任せて、先輩はもう少しゆっくりしていてください。それにほら、ここを散らかしっぱなしにしていたら藤村先生に怒られるでしょ。
I got it, Sakura. Thank you.
そうだな。それじゃあ着替えてから行くから、さくらは先に戻っていてくれ。
はい、お待ちしてますね、先輩。
Sakura leaves. What a sweet girl. Well, I have to change into my school uniform and clear up this mess. The shed is built on the edge of our yard, and just as it seems, it's a warehouse we put all our junk in. But for me, it's a place of treasure since I've enjoyed messing with things since I was a kid. Father didn't allow me to go into the shed, but I always sneaked in here. As a result, it became my base. For me, Emiya Shiro, I guess you could call this my real room. The big Emiya household doesn't suit me, and I can only relax in this space full of junk.
そもそももったいないじゃないか。ガラクタって言ってもまだ使えるし。
Most of the things in here are appliances that can't be used anymore. Did I bring all the junk in here because I like the place, or did I come to like it here because of all the junk? Anyway, since I was always sneaking in here, it became my hobby to fix the broken things. It's not like I get attached to things. I think it just annoys me to not use things that can still be used. And just like that, I was fixing up this stove all last night.
完成は明日か。途中で寝るなんて集中力が足りない証拠だ。
I shake off the feeling of disappointment in myself. I gather up the parts of the stove and put them on the shelf full of things waiting to be fixed. There are no spaces on this shelf full of things awaiting repair. An old VCR waits out to the stove. I guess I'll ignore the fact that Fujine broke both of them. I change into my uniform. This place is like my room, and it holds changes of clothes along with other things I need. It also has lots of blueprints and junk, the results of failures from when I do my training. There's also some kind of old design inscribed on the floor, like an altar or something.
さて、今日も一日頑張って精進しよう。
It worries me sometimes that he doesn't realize that he has a rune inscribed on the floor of his shed. The only reason why I say this is because his father is a magus. Clapping my hands in prayer to the shed, I head for the house. I emerge from the shed. The Emiya house is a Japanese-style house on the outskirts of town. My father wasn't much of a respected person in town, but he somehow still had this huge house. That on its own is a mystery, but it also seems he didn't have any relatives in Japan. That's why the house became mine and no one else's when my father died. Though to be honest, I don't have that kind of management ability. Old man Fujimura is in charge of complicated things like inheritance and property taxes. Old man Fujimura is the big landlord in this neighborhood. According to father, the old man's like a Yakuza boss. Of course, this is just prejudice. He's not like a Yakuza boss. He is a Yakuza boss. Well, that's a problem in itself, but I prefer to ignore it. It's certainly true that he's energetic and scary, but he's actually not that bad a person. He really helps me as he pays a lot when I tune up the motorcycle he likes to ride. Anyway, that's why I'm the only one living in this big house. It's been 5 years since father died. The days have passed quickly. I sighed thinking about how much I've grown in those 5 years. I've trained every day to be like Kiritsugu, but it's not that easy in reality. It's natural because I had no talent to begin with, but what can be said about having no improvement at all in 5 years? To sum up the present in one sentence, my goal is so far away that I'm not even at the starting line yet. No, I guess it won't do any good to rush. For now, I have to do what I can. Well then, right now I should. Oh, you're giving me a choice. Alright, let's save. Let's try that again. Let's save. There you go. Yep. Okay. So if anything else, guys, I'm going to end it here for today. Thank you all for watching. We are now at the main part of the story at long last. That prologue was pretty long, though. And keep in mind, I played this before, but this was like years ago. Like when I first started discovering visual novels and just absorbing them all. This one being no different. It was like a great, this was like a fantastic read all the way through because it was like I was experiencing the medium of what visual novels really were capable of, and we're finally here. So if anything else, guys, thank you again for watching, and I will see you in the next one.